G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR and welcome to the second of our team previews for the 2023 preseason. I'm joined again by my co-host Spills. Spills, how are you, legend? What is crack-a-lackin'?
Never better, mate. Just enjoying the quality hospitality you've been providing me for the last couple of days, just cruising. And really keen to get stuck into some SuperCoach with the all-time great. Let's be honest, it's going to be an absolute ripper of a conversation. And I've definitely been looking forward to this one.
Yeah, we do have the great man. Now, if you're watching this video, you'll be very, very familiar with this man. It is the great Jords from Fantasy Take TV. And today he's going to give us his thoughts, some little insights into the mighty Crom. So we better get straight into it. Let's welcome the great man. He's waiting on the stream.
Oh, looking fit as always too. Buddy, he's always in good nick, Jords. How's the preseason been treating you, buddy?
How are you, boys? Thanks for the kind intro again. I think I told you guys last time, tone it down a little bit, but nonetheless, that's fine. But yeah, going well. A few weeks off work, so trying to get fit. It's working out is I find it a little tough, but having a few weeks off has been just incredible. So loving it at the moment, and dangerous time for the team picker to open as well, because I've already done 2 team reveals. So hopefully no more till late January or something. But yeah, absolutely loving it at the moment. How are you boys going?
Very good, mate. I did when I did my first team draft, I mentioned in the intro that I'm sure that Jords would have dropped everything if he was at work. Off we go, drop the tools, straight on the computer. I know what it's like, mate. It becomes a bit obsessive, this game, doesn't it? But have you been doing anything else to balance this out, Jords? So obviously spending a fair bit of time behind the computer on the team picker. You've been getting out, getting fit, mate. What else have you been doing to balance out this computer time, mate?
Playing BBL?
Not a lot, to be honest. Just enjoying the time off. Just trying to go for runs every day. So been loving that at the moment. Clears your head a little bit, which is good, but never been the most I've always been a short distance person, but hopefully over the next few weeks can get to 3-4 Ks, but a long way off at the moment. So yeah.
Have you been playing some BBL, Jords?
I been bit of struggle town in BBL. So when SuperCoach opened, I just did my trades on would have been Saturday morning. Didn't really check the red dots, traded in 3 donuts. So I thought they had a double buy rounds, just picked the decent ownership players. And looked at my team last night and 3 DNPs. So more power to me. I just straight C tie.
Yes, good move. Yeah,
so I think I'm done and dusted, I think, with BBL. But it seems very popular at the moment. Lots of people getting into it, which has been good.
I'm very addicted to it, honestly. I've been checking it every day, and just all my moves, and I just love it. Yeah, started getting into a bit of BBL, so hopefully have a good season. I checked Edo's team yesterday, and he's flying, like ranked 202, if you can believe that. So that's Fantasy Take TV, mate. They produce some pretty good super coaches, it's fair to say.
We do, mate. But we're not here to talk about BBL, obviously, Jords. We've got you
talking all day, honestly,
to talk about the mighty Crom and some of the blokes that may be relevant this year, mate. So we might start off with some of the rookies, some of the cheaper price players, and then work our way up to a couple of premiums who I think will be really, really popular selections this year. But the first bloke I wanted to talk about, mate, was young Billy Dowling. So bigger-bodied inside midfielder coming at 117,000 this year, available to be selected in our midfields. Can you tell us anything about Dowling, Jords, and what his prospects may be for this year, mate?
Yeah, so he was taken, I think, in the 4th this year. Maybe the knock on him was maybe disposal, like kind of the general inside mid types. A lot of these sort of plays are kind of getting phased out a little bit, but he's a tall mid. He's got a really, really, really good work rate. So I think his under 19s numbers were around 128 average, which is really, really good. I think he's 80 kilos, 180 something. I think 188 centimeters. He might be less. I don't remember exactly, but I think he could probably play round 1 if he wanted to. But I think the Crows midfield at the moment, it's very much up in the air who's actually, you got your Laird, you got Berry, and then after that, I'm not sure anyone's quite guaranteed that mid time. Even like a Keys, he might be at half forward, not too sure. But I think he might be one where we get him later in the year. Fingers crossed. But if he's named round 1, I would definitely put him on the bench. So it sounds like a good fantasy prospect and one you could probably throw on the field if he does play. But just with these young players, see how they go in the AFL system, how they adapt to preseason, and go from there. So one to keep an eye on for sure as a rookie.
Excellent. Put him on the watch list, mate. Another bloke who's available in our defensive line, a little bit more expensive given the fact that he has been in the system for a little while, is Andy McPherson. I know he was injured last year, didn't manage to play a game. Do you see him in the 22 this year, Jords, and someone that's worth a look at?
The thing with McPherson was he was moved from the senior list to the rookie list. Generally not the best sign. So had a lot of injuries as well. I'm not 100% sure if he's fully fit at the moment. Haven't really heard much, but one to watch over the preseason. He can score in a halfback role. They could play Max Michelini over him. He's another rookie. Probably not much scoring potential, but wouldn't worry too much about him for now. But if he does play, he might get a decent role. But he's only really competing with like a Chase Jones, Will Hamill, guys that I'm not 100% sure are 22. So I think it's one to watch over the preseason. But to be honest, not overly optimistic on McPherson. But hopefully, if he puts his injuries issues behind him in a full preseason, bit of continuity, he could be one that scores okay for us, but not optimistic.
Yeah, he's one to consider, Jords. Like I don't mind him as a pick. Could possibly turn out to be the sort of that D7 type as that Jordan Butts from a few years ago that worked a treat for you. Just someone that's a cheap price, that's got some good job security, and hopefully he can establish that as he goes. But somebody that I am quite bullish on, mate, is Zach Taylor, who was pick 44 in the 2021 draft, and I think he was touted as the biggest slider of that draft, and hasn't yet to have made his way through AFL yet. What can you tell me about him? Because he's always sort of reminded me as that outside silky Josh Kelly type. And if we can have one of them in our SuperCoach size as a rookie, that would be an absolute treat. So, yeah, what do you know about Taylor, mate?
I'm optimistic on Taylor. I watched him in the SNFL finals last year, and I thought he was really, really good. He was able to rack up the pill, able to spread from stoppage and use the ball well, which the Crows need. So I think if he plays, probably not a whole lot of mid-time, maybe like a half-forward role, something like that, maybe on the outside. I'm not too sure. Optimistic on Zach Taylor. So he's a talent that he needs a big preseason. Again, like second-year player. First year, probably could have got a game late in the season, but they just opted not to. So if he just continues on the trajectory that he's on, I think he'll be a good one on the bench for us, and hopefully he plays round one. So I do like him a lot. And yeah, I think he's one that you just chuck on your bench for now and see how he goes. But yeah, I'm excited for Zach Taylor.
Ripper.
He's not far from my team. But there's another one as well. I think this is the last rookie we got, DR. But Luke Pedler, so he was at first, I think he was top 10 draft pick a couple of years ago. But I don't know, never really looked that comfortable at the AFL level. He's been absolutely riddled with injuries. Do you reckon he's due for a good year? Because he's currently sitting at, what's his price? He's about 170K, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So what's the chance of picking him? Is he a smoky?
It's an interesting one. Crows fans seem to be pretty optimistic on Pedler, but he just hasn't been able to get on the park, and he hasn't looked good at AFL level. But a lot of that is I guess you could put it down to no continuity, like groin issues, left, right, and center, hamstrings, just non-stop injuries. So if he gets a full preseason, even then, I'm not too sure. 170K, I think he'll play off the half forward. Doesn't rack up a whole lot of pill, but he's damaging with the ball. We're at SNFL level. So I think he's a no, just because I don't think the role is going to be good enough for the price, and then the durability is pretty bad. But he's a rookie, so yeah, give it a little bit of leeway there. I think he'll play round one if he's fully fit, but just not one I think we'll have better options on the field in the forward line. So, and then it's a bit too much for the bench. So should play if fully fit in a full preseason, but it's a massive question mark. Role won't be that great. It's probably a no at this stage for me.
Yeah, I'm picking Toby McLean instead for that spot, I think. There's just so many other better options, as you said. So, that's a fair call.
Love it. So we pretty much, I think, covered the rookies there, mate. Let's get into a couple of mid-prices now. One bloke that I think is a bit of an underrated player, probably outside the four walls of Adelaide. He's a tough inside mid, an absolute tackling machine. And that's Sam Berry. What do you think about his prospects as a SuperCoach player for us this year, mate?
I'm excited to see Sam Berry's development in his third year, because we've never seen tackle numbers like this before. So I think he just about would have broken the record just about for average tackles per game. So very excited to see him. Again, third year, progress isn't always improvement isn't always linear with these guys. So, you could stagnate a little bit because just for whatever reason. But the CBAs are going to be really good. I think he'll be the number 2 mid behind Laird, which is great for a third-year player. So very impressive. Works really, really hard. And also developed a bit of was able to burst from stoppage a little bit as well last year, which is really encouraging. I think 470k, you're competing with the big dogs. A few other breakouts have had a lot more years in the system, like your LDU, your Tom Green. So it's quite tough to justify picking him. I do think he's underpriced, but there's just too many big dogs. Like if you look at like who you want in your midfield at the end of the year, there's just big dogs left, right, and center.
Yeah.
So it's just hard to see him competing with that. So for me, it's a no. But I'm excited to see how he goes.
Yeah, I owned him in draft last year, and it was one of my best selections. Like as a real, like as about as smoky as a pod actually gets. He was in the forward line. He was doing an absolute treat. But yeah, there's just too many other options. I'm pretty sure. But there's another bloke here who's also pretty heavily discounted, whether we go there or not. But Rory Sloane's sitting at a fair and reasonable 413k. Is that just a little bit ambitious, Jords? Like, no, that's not really realistic, is it?
No, forget it. There's not much to say on Sloane. I think I think they need to find a new role for him because just before he did the ACL, they moved him to a half forward role and he played really well. But I think inside he's lost a bit of pace. He's not as ferocious in the contest as he once was, just because his body has really let him down the past few years.
Yeah.
Move along.
Excellent. All right. So how about for those people that may be looking to save a little bit of money in our defensive lines, Tom Duday, a really great young leader, maybe future captain of the club. What do you think about his prospects at 422,000, Jords? Any value there? Is it worth contemplating Tommy Duday? What sort of role do you see him playing this year?
Is there value there? Yes. Would I contemplate him as a pick? Probably not. I think there's two issues. One, his durability probably hasn't been as good as the other top defenders that we need. So one, durability, and two, Crows have lost Frampton, and our key position defense stocks are the thinnest I've probably ever seen. Our Butts and Murray are our key position players. They're both rookie picks, played under 50 games. And then our third key position player is a category something rookie. So we're very thin back there. And the Crows showed, I actually think this was a tanking tactic to use Duday as a key position player every now and then, because he's not a key position player. We just got slaughtered in that position. So there might be times where he has to play on a big toll. So that's going to kill his scoring, which was probably part of the reason why he only averaged in the 70s. When you give him the free intercepting role, he should be able to go 85 to 90. So it's a no from me. And maybe the Crows also have another young player, Josh Worrell. I think they want to play that intercepting role. So I think, the role's not going to be super great all the time for Duday, but I think there is a bit of value there.
Yeah,
but
I don't think
it's a no.
Yeah, I don't think he's relevant or at all a good SuperCoach pick, but 100%, I think he should definitely be your next captain. And I reckon Sloaney should give him that ASAP. Is it Sloaney or Walker? Who's captain of the Crows? But whoever it is, I think it should go Duday because he leads by example, mate. But you guys threw the kitchen sink at this next bloke in the trade period, and that's Isaac Rankin, who's 386k, who was under a little bit of adversity early on in 2022, but found a little bit of a cheeky mid-forward role, mate. And how much mid-time are we going to see?
I think there's a bit of pressure in Adelaide media saying you got to play midfield because you can't have all this money, just signed Fogg. You can't have all these players that we've signed on big money in the forward line. You need to get more value out of them and put them around the ball. So I think it sounds like we want to use him around the middle a fair bit. And he was quite good at Gold Coast a few years ago. Oh, not a few years ago. This year, he was really good getting midfield stints and half forward. So I don't think it's going to be enough to be relevant in the forward line. You could pay a bit more for I'm not sure how much he is, but I think there was a time where he nearly fell to below 200k last year, and then he just flicked the switch on and averaged 85, 90 from there or something like that. So I don't think there's durability also is a bit of a question mark. So it's a no from me, but it's going to be interesting to see his mid-forward split. I think they kind of want to use him like a Shea Bolton. But at times the scoring, if he's not getting midfield minutes, then the pick is in the gutter. So you don't really want to sit through that. So it's a no, but I think it'd be fun to watch though.
Yeah, well, it's 386k, so that's pretty like mediocre, but there's so many better options in the forward line for that. I just don't see a way that I'd go anywhere near it. But yeah, definitely champion, 100% about that. Community staff for your club.
Another bloke, Jords, another bloke who is a bit of a forgotten man, a fantasy pig of the past, had some troubles last couple of years with injuries, and that's Matty Crouch. Under 500K, I think, 498,000 this year. I know that we've got a lot of those other mid-price options, such as your Hoppers, your Sheeds. Is it worth taking a look at Matty Crouch, or is it pretty easy just to skip past him, you think, this year, mate?
He's a skip, I think. The Crows kind of don't want. He doesn't really suit the midfield mix at the moment. He'll train really hard. He'll go in the SNFL, probably average 40 touches or something. But I mean, you can't really pay that much for someone that's not secure in the best 22. So it's pretty simple. As simple as that. We tried to get rid of him. We signed him for 2 years. We were trying to get rid of him, and then no one took him. Then we signed him for 2 years. A year later, we're trying to get rid of him again. No takers. So it's a total mess.
That's what I was going to ask you. You were expecting him to move on. I'll certainly expect him to move on. But if there's no takers, then you're in a bit of a no-win situation there, aren't you, mate? So, we think he's probably going to spend a fair bit of time in the twos. Because as you did mention, you've got a lot of young guys that are starting to come through there, even like your Schoenbergs. We want Taylor to hopefully spend some time through there. So it looks like his best days, unfortunately, spills may be over for the great Matty Crouch.
Yeah, I think he's definitely an AFL player. We saw what he could do in 2017. Obviously, he went down along with the Crows after that, and I just think he needs an opportunity, another club. Whether or not he gets that next year, I'm not really sure. But Jords, obviously, Gordon Grundy have decided to team up, making the ruck situation quite difficult because in previous years we've been so used to selecting both of them in the same team in SuperCoach, but ironically, we can't do that anymore. So we've got to think left field. So this is why I've thrown Riley O'Brien in this mix because, well, how left field can we get in our ruck situation? Because there's so many different options. They're all around the same price. But what can you tell us about Roberto and why should we pick him?
No, don't. Pretty simple. I think probably the more interesting one is
we shouldn't at all.
I think the SNFL ruckman Strawn is always that slight threat and has been for about a year or two to come into the team if Rob's out of form. Rob is the better ruck, but he probably hasn't had his best year the past 1 or 2 years. So if Rob goes down, I think you'd be all over the Crows backup ruck. I think he's 260K, but I think Rob hasn't really shown that he can go that 110 plus in SuperCoach. I think might have gotten close to it, but he has a low floor as well. So he's going to have games where he just scores like 50, 60. So he's kind of like your maybe 2 tiers below, maybe 1 tier below the top echelon. So it's a no. But yeah, if you keep an eye on the backup ruck though, I think if something happens to Rob.
Yeah. I think around that price, like 560K, I mean, you're picking Rowan over him every day of the week, but it's more so if there's any carnage over the offseason, if Rowan goes down, if Cameron goes down over the preseason, and it's starting to get real dicey, like maybe he's one that we can select if everyone just falls over. But yeah, I'm with you, mate. I'm pretty far away from this pick. I can't see him. Benny might see him anytime soon.
For me, it's that range, isn't it? That his best and his worst, there's such a huge gap there because he's got a massive ceiling, this bloke. We've seen him pump out some absolute monsters. But as you just said then before, Jords, we can also see the worst of him where he can easily punch out a 50 or a 60. There's another bloke I want to touch on that we did almost mention before, Mr. Benny Keys, one of my favourite players, my favourite Adelaide player, obviously being an ex-Lions man. We delisted him. There wasn't really room for him in our midfield, but really flourished when he headed over to South Australia, had a red-hot start to the season, playing some inside midfield time, but it seemed like he sort of got phased out of that midfield sort of towards the end of the season. Jords, what do you think about Benny Keys' prospects this year, and what role do you think that he's most likely to actually play?
I don't know what role he gets because, for a start, I think last year they threw him in a half-forward role, like a defensive forward shutdown role on Adam Sard. I think most people can remember that game if you watched it. He kicked 3 goals from the goal square. But he's had off-season shoulder surgery. So was he playing forward because they wanted him forward, or was he playing forward because he had a sore shoulder? That hasn't really been answered. So I think the best indicator will be in the practice games and intra clubs where he actually plays. I think midfield or half forward. I prefer him at half forward. just because I'd like to see a lot of the young kids get a bit more of a run in the midfield. And I thought he played a really good role, and he can kick goals. So if he can get to his prime best, that like he did probably the first month where he had like 10 Brownlow votes or something like that last year, then yeah, sure, put him in the midfield. But yeah, I think ball use got really, really, really poor as the year went on. So for me, he's a no, but he's one where if he gets forward status and he comes back into the midfield, you could look at him. But otherwise, I think there's too much risk around what role he could play. So for me, he's a no.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we're paying, that 550K mark and the role is uncertain, and never good signs, mate. Now, Spills, we'll probably get into the two premiums that I think most people are going to be interested in this year.
Yeah,
who's the first man you think that we might be talking about?
Well, the first person that entered my team, Jords, as soon as the team picker come out, is probably my favourite player that's not at the Bombers, and that's the one and only Desk, Rory Laird. He's my favourite player. He's a gun, mate. Is it worth paying 703K for him? Can that be justified, or is that too much? But at the moment, I've penciled him in. What can you tell us about Rory Laird?
He's just a stud. He's unbelievable. We saw last year how good he was. As soon as I brought him into my team, my captain problems were solved because I just put the C on him every week and I didn't fail once, basically. So
the problem is... Sorry to cut in there, Jords, but what I really like about him is it's unlike Clary where he can sort of copy the occasional 80 or a tag or something. When I got Laird, it was never below 120, but it was very rarely over 140. It was just 130s just every single week. Like, basically, it was just the most consistent, safe as houses VC you could ask for, honestly, yeah. But, continue on, whatever you're saying.
Yeah, he never really dropped in price, so you had to jump on at low 600s, but you had to pay more, basically. So I think I expect him to somewhat back it up, give or take, 2 or 3 points for Laird. The problem is he's 700K, and do you go Clary, do you go Laird? I've gone Clary for now. I think looking at the fixture, Clary has a really nice run from round 4 or 5 onwards. I guess that's kind of when you could bring him in, but I think just the other reason why you don't start him is just salary cap issues and the fact that you should get him cheaper. But that goes for all the midfielders. You're going to get them all like 50 cheaper, most likely at some point, even possibly more. So, look, I fully expect him to back it up. He can handle the tag. They sent Willem Drew to him, and he still scored 130 in the showdown. I think round 22 or round 23 last year. So, look, safe pick. The only probably minor risk is he is 29. We see midfielders tend to decline around that age. Neil was 29 last year and he went berserk. So it's not a given, but that 29-30, that's when the slow decline starts to begin. So look, I'm happy to go without him for now, but he's one where you got to get him in ASAP, I think. If you don't start him, but yeah, you got your captain option sorted basically if you start him.
Yeah, it looks like he's just teeing off. Honestly, I mean, he's spent most of his career in the black boots off half back, but then he chucks on the fluoro boots in the midfielder in the midfield and the star. So I'm picking both of them. I think I'm actually going to lock in Laird and Oliver somehow. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I think they're just the two absolute locks that are going to make you pay if you don't select them. But yeah, it's another story, DR. I'm bullish on the Desk, and yeah, I'm penciling him in.
What I like about him is his low variance in scoring, as you mentioned before, and I think he only went. It was around 20K under his initial starting price for the whole year. That was his lowest price point. So for me, a big reason why I'm locking him in is that consistent scoring and the ability to almost maintain that price. Only coming down 20K for the year. It would have been hard to grab onto him at any stage of the year. And I actually didn't own him at all last year, Jords. And what an absolute rookie move. I just felt like whenever I was going to bring him in, I was compromising other areas of my team because of his price. So I think that's probably the only thing that may put some people off is that really, really high starting price. But we do have to obviously get this man in as soon as possible. There is one more bloke that I didn't have for much of last year. I think I brought him in for the last 3 rounds. It was an absolute killer because he'd already done most of his best work by then. And that's Laird Dawson. He's the first defensive lock for me in 2023. Same for you, Jords. Are you locking this great man in? You're expecting him just to continue on with his great form from last season?
Probably 90% I picked Jordan Dawson. I think there's potential a bit of upside because he's done 115 on a wing at Sydney, so maybe he moves there and scores a little bit more, but he scores well in defence anyway. We saw last year he started quite slow. It was a little bit underdone, threw him forward a little bit. They tried him in the CBAs, didn't really work. He had like that calf issue, so we didn't actually see him in the preseason. But once, his match fitness built up a bit or got a bit of continuity 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks in, he just went on a massive tear. So I think, the Crows depend on him a lot for moving the ball. And, he takes contested marks. He can kick the odd goal, even from halfback. So, that does bump up his scoring. And he's a pretty safe pick, I think. So possibly captain as well. I think Nick's has sort of hinted that he might be, but we'll see. So, and captain, when you see a captain, when a new player gets captain, it doesn't really always mean good things for their scoring for whatever reason. Just historically, it hasn't, but I don't think it will matter too much. So, very happy to pick him in. I think he barely had a bad game apart from the last round. I think he scored a sub 80, but I think everything else was above that. So, ultra consistent. Very happy to have Dawson in the team.
Excellent. So how many Crows are currently sitting in your current version of your team, Jords?
Just Dawson. I think I have Zach Taylor on the bench and Dowling, but just for now. But just Dawson for now. So, I don't think I'll be starting Laird just because I've just committed to Oliver for now.
We might touch on that. Why have you decided to go Clary over Laird, Jords? Was because it must be a pretty close call. For me, it's almost a 50-50 call.
Very close.
Sent you Clary's way over Laird, mate?
Yeah, so I think fundamentally, I think you look at Clary, he's only 25, Laird's 29, so I think Laird's maybe gets a little bit better, not too sure, but Clary could actually get better. I suppose they both have a slight injury priced into their price. Laird had the broken hand that he came from in round 2 or 3, and I think Oliver had the broken hand too, something like that.
Did, yes, that's right, yeah.
I want Clary for his round 5 Adelaide Oval game because he seems to score 200 every time he comes here.
Yeah. The traditional 200.
But Oliver's a weird one where it's like you're going to get an opportunity to get him, but you're also going to have times where you can't get him. Whereas I don't think Laird will go 200. He'll go berserk. He'll kind of sit at that 650 to 680 range for most of the year, I suspect. Possibly it only takes a few sub-tons. So, and we see with midfielders, generally, apart from maybe like Lockie Neal and Cripps, in the back half of the year, they tend to score better. We've seen that with Steele. We've seen that with Took. And I think McRae last year, maybe not this year, but I think it's whoever floats your boat, really. It's not really, I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. But I think it's just a lot to pay at the moment. And if you can somehow make it work, then I guess I could fit it both in. But I think for me, probably following Moreira's magic a bit more. And, he started with I think he just started McRae, Cripps, and Neil last year. He just went with the one captaincy option. And he did really well just because you're going to get these guys cheaper regardless. But at the same time, you're going to get all the mids cheaper. So that's kind of into my thinking. Just, I don't want to overpay too much because I'm already overpaying in defense. So I think it's something to think about for sure. But I've just gone Oliver over Laird. But I think you're not much damage is going to, I might get a 30K advantage over you for getting Laird 30K cheaper. So it's not a big deal at all. But it's an interesting strategy, I think. But I've just gone Oliver.
All right, well, Jords, thank you very much for coming on again today, mate, with all of your brilliant insights about the Crom. Also looking forward to you coming on maybe in a week or two to talk about your closet team, the Western Bulldogs.
Yeah, there's a couple of players that I'm pretty interested in. Is this the first season that Jords is not going to start one Jackson McRae?
I actually didn't start him last year, which was monumental stuff up and brought him in straight away.
That's come back to backfire at me. I'm surprised about that. But
I dropped him at the last second for Steele because I needed the money, and it just ended in tears. And that was it was uphill from there. But we don't tell people. I think actually it's kind of an open secret now. If you watch the videos,
love
the dogs. Mate, watching Bont flick it to McRae, flick it to Baz on the outside, and then dunks as well. it's just, they're very, very nice to watch. So yeah, can't wait to see how they go this year. They're structured up a bit better this year. So, and then you got Dunkley now. I still call him a dogsmith. I haven't fully accepted that he's not a dogsmith, but that'll wear way over time, I think. So that's very exciting. I think it's good for SuperCoach, good for his career, good for everything, I think. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, we'll look after him, Jords. We will look after the great man. I'll tell you what. Being able to actually support this bloke playing for your own team, because we all love him in SuperCoach, going to be very, very enjoyable this year, mate. Cannot wait to see what Dunks does. My early prediction, my bold prediction, was a premiership and a Brownlow for Dunks this year. So I think I've got pretty high expectations, Jords. Not too sure if we'll get that far, but wrapped to have him on, mate.
Don't think Neil will let that happen, DR, but I hope to see that one day.
Share it around, Lockie. Share it around, Lockie. Well, great, man. Thank you very, very much for joining us again. As I said, what are your plans for any pre-season content, mate? Because I'm sure anyone that's watching will be really keen to hear what you're doing. Can you drop anything that you might be uploading in the next couple of weeks at all, mate?
We got a lot planned for next year. I don't think I'm allowed to say this, but we're doing a website. So that should be a bit of fun. That's not the most tech-savvy person, but it's kind of like, see how you go. Just give it a go. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, whatever. But I think that'll be a bit of fun and occupy the time a bit. I don't think I was supposed to tell anyone that, but oh well, too bad. It's not too far away. You can just let it out
if you want, mate.
No, that's all good. So I think we'll do that. So that'll be a bit of fun. We'll do the podcast as usual. Still do like regular videos and whatnot. So yeah, very excited for that. But yeah, pre-season, nothing specific at the moment, set in stone. But yeah, just going with the website and then doing as many videos as possible. So that'll be fun.
Sounds great, mate. Can't wait. And anyone that's obviously not in Jords' Discord at the moment, that is the best place that you'll find for any info. So make sure that you jump on there. But as I've mentioned, I think 2 or 3 times, if you're watching us, then you're probably already in this Discord.
Yeah, don't need to plug him too much.
Yeah,
he needs to plug up, I think. But it's another story, DR.
All right, well, great, man. Thank you very much for joining us again, mate. And cannot wait to sit down with you again soon and talk about those dogs, Jords.
Can't wait to see you boys again. Cheers, boys.
Good on you. Thanks, mate.
See you, mate.
Cheers, bud.
You.